AI has arrived. And if you're like me, it's hard to get your head around all this artificial intelligence stuff. Many people are now using the large language models, LLMs, in their everyday lives. We're talking about ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot. They can all be helpful. They can also make mistakes, and sometimes they make things up, a term that AI scientists call hallucination. We hear about advances in technology and breakthroughs in medicine, but then we see AI robots literally falling on the world stage. And it's funny and it's not funny, right? Because we keep hearing about layoffs, thousands and thousands of layoffs. So, where is AI right now? This podcast is an attempt to try and understand, to break down a lot of those jargony terms, to demystify the subject so that we can all be part of the conversation.
Joining us now is Ayori Selassie. She is a founder and venture capitalist. She describes herself as a self-preneur. She's an innovation strategy advisor for Salesforce customers. And Ayori, you've been on the inside of the tech world as AI was being birthed in recent years. And it's still young, but wow, is it maturing really quickly.
Absolutely. Artificial intelligence is moving faster than ever before. In fact, faster than anything we have seen to date in terms of technology. And it's a really exciting time. And I'm having a great time because I wake up each day thinking, wow, I was born in the right time.
And I appreciate your optimism. It's also a time of anxiety for a lot of people because they don't understand it. I think a lot of people are worried about their jobs, but they're also just excited about all the advances that can happen because of AI. So I'm glad you have enthusiasm for it because I do want to explore this subject and get this conversation going. And I just want to say I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, including mine. It's not that I don't understand anything about science or what have you. It's just we've all been doing other things as AI came along, and we're trying to understand the tech terms. And so if we can just take a big step back and say, all right, artificial intelligence, AI, that means it learns. It's like, unlike computers in the past, it's actually learning as it goes along.
Absolutely. AI, that's literally what artificial intelligence is doing, is it's learning. It is machine learning. So as humans evolved, as our society evolves, as our business models evolve, the AI has to evolve with it. But the AI is actually slower than humans. So it's slower than humans in general, but as humans are also like moving in individual human pace, in that way, AI is moving a lot faster than most people. And so I definitely encourage people that like every 3 to 6 months, take another step back and go back and refer to see like what has changed over the last few months, because this field is moving so quickly.
Well, it's a lot. And especially in the last, I want to say, year and a half, it's just been this fire hose of announcements and activities and constant sort of, I don't know, doomsaying that, well, this is going to be the end of society as we know it. And a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. I mean, I think that's the one thing that a lot of people hang on to, right? I mean, they in the same breath are saying they could be curing cancer and doing all these miraculous things. But that is something that has gotten people's attention. But I mean, where are we in all of this? I mean, we keep hearing about all these advances. We keep hearing about the potential of AI. But are we there, or is some of this overblown so that these companies can get more and more investor money?
I love that question. So artificial intelligence is absolutely real. Although it's called artificial, it is real.
Right.
So I think for generations prior, artificial intelligence was available to a select few people like me and my data scientist friends. We were using AI, but now what is different is that AI has arrived for the general population. But also for most people, I'd say probably about 90% of people, even though they may be using AI, they haven't really learned how to activate the perspicacity effect of AI and use it to really create what the world needs. So the
The
way I think of it is,
perspicacity effect.
yeah, it's a little bit of a mouthful, the perspicacity effect. It basically means when you understand the language of ideas that move the world forward, you can use AI to accelerate the creation of what the world needs. So we can all use AI to you know, create a better sourdough recipe or whatever. But like, is that really going to move the world forward? Is that going to cure cancer? Right. So when we're looking at this opportunity, that's really where I see the gap is between people who are using AI to create silly memes versus people using AI to create what the world actually needs. And one other thing I'd like to add is that there's a tendency for humans to kind of limit themselves to doing what they think a tool can do, or they limit themselves to doing what they've been told that the tool should do. And this is really a wrong mindset, especially for today, because like, just imagine if we went back in time and humans had limited themselves to like sticks and stones, because that's what was available, right? We'd never have built pyramids, we'd never sailed to new continents or like traveled to the moon. And so essentially, every generation gets new tools. Our generation is receiving this incredible tool to our general population called artificial intelligence, essentially powered by large language models, LLMs. And the question is not just what the tool can do, it's how big can you dream and what can you create that hasn't been created yet because you're using that tool.
I understand. I mean, it's learning. And so you can push the boundaries and perhaps, continue to have it learn what you are then trying to learn, and it builds upon itself and it expands the knowledge base and the learning base. And in fact, in terms of LLMs, I think that's what most people are familiar with, although probably people don't call them LLMs. They call them ChatGPT generically, or, they may be using Gemini or some of the other companies' versions of it. But that's where a lot of people are right now, right? I mean, maybe even a year ago, people were still Googling, and now I think there's a shift. People are using it in their lives. They're using it to organize and beyond.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny. I was actually having dinner with a friend and her adult daughter. She, recently graduated from college, and they were talking about some specific topic that, of course, moms should know best, right? And the daughter went right to her phone and she put it into Google, and now Google does AI answers, right? So it's not providing you with a search result that you then look through and find the answer. It's giving you the answer right outright. And so the daughter showed the answer and she was like, this is what the internet says. And the mom was like, so things are changing really quickly, and how like people are adopting the technology and how it's changing people's behavior.
And we can get to a wrong answer a lot more quickly. No, but I mean, it's pretty good. It does give you the sources. It gives you a chance to look back, but it can get it wrong still.
Yeah, and because the thing about it is that with the large language model, it actually is not giving you the answer. The AI is not the source. And I think that's what we need to make sure people really understand. AI is not the source. ChatGPT cannot be a source of anything. What ChatGPT and large language models can do is it can reference a source that exists. It can summarize a source and explain what that source is saying to a wide variety of different audiences. However, depending on what that source says, depending on the language in that source and how frequently that language appears in the model, the summarization can be incorrect. So even that act, of what the large language models do best still has some error threshold, some threshold of error, because these are predictions. These are not facts.
As a career journalist, we always talked about consider the source. The LLMs are still sourcing Reddit, for example, although they are moving away from it to some degree. But Reddit is a bulletin board of gossip and also some hard truths. I mean, it's everything, but it can be misleading.
Yeah, I have an embarrassing story of my own. My daughter wanted to make a tres leches cake for one of her friends for their birthday. And of course, being the, Uber mom that I always strive to be, I'm like, okay, I'm going to find the best, most authentic tres leches cake recipe in the world. I'm going to go to the internet. So I went to the internet and I found a recipe on Reddit. Now, I should know better, okay? But I was vulnerable. I was really trying to like help my daughter do this thing. And so I found this recipe with tres leches for tres leches cake. And the ingredients was goat milk, cow's milk, and donkey milk. And I was like,
Mm,
what? That's how tres leches cake is
uh,
made? And it took
yeah,
my daughter to be like, Mom, you just got owned.
yeah. So, to the point, consider the source. I like that it gives you a source, but there's still work to be done. It seems to get better every day. And I tell you, one of my neighbors told me, she said that her ChatGPT is her best friend, and her husband said, "I thought I was your best friend." So, right, the world's changing as we speak. But I mean, as far as these LLMs go, they seem to have advanced. They're doing a lot better. They're not quite there.
So where are they, right? That's really the question. Where are large language models in terms of their quality? So we've come a long way from ChatGPT, which is what really exploded the awareness of this new tool, this new AI. But there are lots of new tools now that are available that are even better at doing very specific things. So, for example, if you wanted to do some research and you really needed high quality answers, I would say don't go to ChatGPT. I would say go to u.com. Why would I say go to u.com? Is because what they do is they specialize in high quality sources and citation. With a tool like u.com, you can create it's like a super brilliant analyst, research analyst, McKinsey grade. And I'm sure McKinsey is upset about me saying that, but
Mm.
that's how good their AI is. And they go out and they source really high quality sources such as research. And they're really, really great at summarizing that and connecting the dots through this information. And then on the other hand, if you wanted to do something specific, like you were a developer and you want to build something, I would say use Claude Code by Anthropic. That's the number one tool for software development. And but if you wanted to do something else, like, hey, I want to figure out how to automate my life, then I would say, hey, we just heard about this great new tool called OpenClaw, which is what's called free and open source software. You don't have to buy a license to it. You just install it on your machine. And what it does is it allows you to set up these different agents to do a variety of different workflows, an autonomous AI agent system for yourself. And a lot of people are building their own personal assistants using OpenClaw. So
Building their own personal assistants, meaning they've somehow rigged their computer to do some errands for them. In some
yes,
cases, they give them their credit card. In some cases, their calendars.
absolutely. Yeah. Hey, schedule these meetings with these people, or go through my email and sort them, and organize them, delete the spam, and, organize my especially accounts for my bank statements or different things like that.
It sounds like, as a parent of a teenager, what I worry about is that autonomous being going off and messing it up. But I mean, it only gets better, I suppose, if you just keep trying it.
Well, that's a really important point that you bring up. Like, anytime you're giving your personal or sensitive information to an AI, you then have to control that. You have to manage that.
So here we are. We've got agents that will run your errands for you, essentially, as long as they're electronic errands. Where it begs the question, when you take it to the nth degree, what can autonomous agents do? Where does that all go? And does that autonomy mean at some point they're going to be in charge of us, right? I mean, it's a question that seems to be more legitimate every day.
I think the risk of AI taking over the world is about as real as Donald Trump's hair. Like, it's pretty far fetched. It's pretty out there. What I would encourage people to think more carefully about is actually who is in control of AI. Because right now we're in a place where, even with autonomous AI, if an autonomous AI has been created, it's been created by a person to do a very specific thing. So who created that autonomous AI? What objectives did it give it? what was the kind of guardrails that was provided to that autonomous AI. We need to be more concerned about who's controlling AI than is AI controlling itself.
Well, let's answer that. Who's controlling AI? I mean, some very, very rich companies right now that are trying to get even richer by bouncing the other guys off the stage.
Who is controlling AI right now? A very small set of companies, right? The OpenAIs, the Anthropics, the Googles, the Microsofts, etc., NVIDIA. These are the, AWS is another big player. These are the big controllers of AI right now. And for the most part, we trust these companies. And I think what we need to be asking ourselves is, are they continuing to earn our trust, or are they starting to do things that erode our trust? One thing that came out recently was Anthropic actually, really held the Pentagon and the U.S. government accountable for adhering to its clause, its usage requirements. And that was included 2 lines in particular. One, which is that Claude code was not to be used for mass surveillance. The second one is that Claude code was not to be used for autonomous weapons. And Anthropic got in trouble with the U.S. government for that, and the White House declared Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security. And Anthropic is going to fight that in court. They have made an announcement that they plan to fight that. I think that is a really great stance that they made. And in fact, it actually led to so many new users signing up for their platform that they had an outage the other day. And so to me, that's a good sign. Like, if leaders of these organizations are saying, hey, we actually want to protect the public, we want to also have an ethical stance when it comes to irreversible decisions like who gets killed. So these are really sensitive things, and leaders of these companies are, I think, making the right choices in many cases, and we just need to keep our eye out for when they're not.
And as far as Anthropic goes, whether people are on one side of the political fence or not, they decided to stand by their declared values. But I've also heard the co-CEO of Anthropic say, okay, but I'm not sure we'll be able to control all of this in the future. We're going to do what we can. And that makes me a little nervous. I mean, because some of the others have talked about values and some have not. And human nature can go, off the deep end sometimes. So, I mean, that's why I think we're having this podcast and this conversation. And I just wonder there's a sense of helplessness out here on the part of regular folks. What can people be doing to be part of that conversation?
Yeah, I think the first thing that people can do is to, one, think about what's important to them, right? Think about what's important to you. Anthropic has said, hey, these are some things that are important to us. These are some things that we value and we're going to stand by. What do you stand by as an individual? What is important to you? You have to be able to define that and then use these tools, right, to help you make more of that real, to bring those values forward in a real way for your personal life, for your family, for your career, for your community. And it all starts very small.
Let's talk about, just to put a button on why we should trust these companies, or maybe why we should not. I think that there's this sense of betrayal almost with the social media companies, right? They were saying one thing in public and another perhaps in private, and our kids clearly were suffering to some degree from some of the effects of social media. And so I think there's a sense that let's try not to do that. Let's try not to do damage to society. But then, and also that from my perspective, we didn't get to weigh in on that conversation as much as perhaps we feel like we could have. So that's why I just wonder what more we could do here in this moment as AI is exploding. just to make sure all those guardrails you spoke of are in place.
Yeah, and this is hard, but what I would encourage people to do is don't outsource your intelligence. Know what is important to you and do your very best to research that. Have the people around you know what you care about, debate it together, take the time, because the more informed we are, the more empowered we are to make decisions, hold other leaders accountable, and support our loved ones. When we're interacting with these tools, they're subtly changing us. They're subtly changing our behavior, and a lot of the information that we receive from it also carries other implications that we might not always know. So just taking a little bit more time to say, like, yes, I want to have my own intelligence, and I want to have conviction in that intelligence, and I don't want to outsource it.
What do you mean by don't outsource your intelligence?
Well, what I mean by when I say don't outsource your intelligence, I mean do the research on your own, make the decision on your own, reason about it, talk about it with friends and people who you trust so that you can expand the context of it and that you're then able to make a decision based on your own intelligence.
I will buy that.
So one of the biggest risks with large language models specifically is what I call the oracle trap, right? Where people will tend to treat the AI as this mystical oracle that can just give you answers. And as I mentioned before, the AI is not a source. Number one, the AI is not a source. The AI is only able to summarize other sources, and it can do that correctly, but it can also do that incorrectly. And then the second thing is you don't want to take your guidance and advice from a large language model. You don't want to just do what it's telling you to do. You have to make that decision. You're ultimately responsible for your actions. So if something goes wrong, you won't be able to go out and say, well, the large language model told me to do it. That's not going to fly. You have to make your own decisions. You have to do your own research, and you have to be responsible for your actions.
We're being told in this moment that jobs will be lost. In fact, we are watching layoffs happen. But we're also being told, look, there's something you can do about it. Be the one who understands AI, because AI is not going to replace you. It's going to be people who understand AI who replace you. Is that true to some degree, or is it true we're going to actually experience a significant change in the workforce?
Yes, we are experiencing a AI workforce transformation right now. And what it really is it's a AI workforce acceleration. So what it means is that for the employees and for the talent out there who are using AI, they're going to have an acceleration on their output and acceleration on their value. And so everyone else who's not using AI, they're on yesterday's speed, right? Everyone else is moving forward at a much faster pace. So that just makes it really easy for companies to cull those performers at the bottom. And it's not personal. And sometimes some people are getting laid off and it's not their performance, but it's their department that they were associated with. So I think it's really important not to take what's happening in the layoff market personally, and not to allow it to mean something about you or your intelligence or your capabilities. Instead, I think it's important for you to put yourself on what I call the spectrum of agency. So the spectrum of agency is like, think on the left side. Agency, there's human agency. Humans making decisions about what they want to do. On the far right side is AI, autonomous AI agents making decisions about what it's going to do. Across that entire spectrum, there is always a human management and a human responsibility layer. So you need to put yourself on that spectrum of agency. And right now, most of the folks that are getting laid off are to they're more on one side where it's more focused on the human agency, but they need to start moving themselves to managing agents more on the side of autonomous AI agency. And there's a lot of space in between. So you don't have to just wake up one day and all of a sudden be like, I'm an autonomous AI manager and I'm just like great at this. Build yourself up. You're in your mind, you should see yourself slowly moving across that spectrum of agency as a human manager of AI and AI agents.
I mean, look, just from my experience with just these LLMs, right, with ChatGPT and Gemini, if to this moment, if I ask it to give me my biography, it gets it wrong, right? It gets a lot of stuff wrong, and it's a little agonizing. But the miraculous thing is that it spits it out in less than a minute. So, right, so it takes a human. It would be like having an assistant who's not really thinking, who's just kind of compiling everything just as you said. So you have to check on that assistant. Or like the other example I was thinking about, see what you think about this. You know, when you have a contractor come to your house and you tell them what you want, I wanted this painted or fixed in a certain way, and then you look at it and you go, that's not what I wanted. Maybe you didn't articulate it perfectly, maybe they didn't hear it right, so you've got to make adjustments as you go along. I mean, that seems to be the limitations that we're dealing with. And so if a human works to be that person who's better at whispering to the contractor, maybe, right, then you have a little better shot at continuing your job for a little while longer, it sounds like.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Like you want to be able to give great directions to the agents that you are managing, and you also want to be able to get in there and make the corrections yourself. So, hey, like you asked them to hang up the painting, they hung up the painting, but the painting was crooked. Are you going to call your contractor back to adjust the painting, or are you going to just go, "Oh," and fix it
Hmm.
yourself, right? So we need to have these kind of dual mindset around how we use the AI and how we correct the AI. You don't need to always, like, sometimes the more expensive choice is to try and tell the AI to do it right. Sometimes the more value added choice is to just make the correction yourself.
Let's put a button on this conversation by just talking about beyond learning about AI and making yourself valuable within an organization. There also seems to be the ability now, and maybe LLMs and other AI can help you with this, to be an entrepreneur, to be a selfpreneur, as you call yourself. So tell me about that. And is that your opinion that, so is that what we're looking at now? Maybe we're going to be contractors ourselves instead of working for the big corporation.
I 100%, matter of fact, this has been my thesis for over a decade, that AI would come out and it would accelerate people to the point where folks would be able to do more freelancing work, do more entrepreneurship, solo entrepreneurship, self entrepreneurship, etc., and focus on the areas that they actually care about. A lot of us are out there doing work that we don't really care about, but we're doing it for a paycheck, and a lot of those folks are going to be the ones that struggle first and end up getting laid off. So I think it's really important for you to start digging deep now in terms of what you actually care about, what your passion is. Like, I was talking to someone the other day who was like a tech executive, and now they're transitioning to interior design. Like, that's a huge shift, right? But that's where their passion is, and now the AI actually enables them to go out, get clients faster, source products faster, and they don't have to hire a huge staff to manage all of this, and they get to decorate homes, decorate beautiful homes. So this is a reality for many people. This is an opportunity for many people. And then there's another piece wherein it's like, if you've been laid off and you've been struggling to get back into the market, there's a concept of the sustenance entrepreneur, where you are doing entrepreneurship not because you want to be the next big entrepreneur, not because you want to be Mark Zuckerberg, but because this is how you're paying your bills right now. And that's also okay. That's a good thing. As long as you have found a way to create value and exchange that value for capital so that you can make a living, do that. Like, and start doing it now. Start doing it before you get laid off, by the way.
Hmm.
Like, there's no reason for you to wait to start using AI to accelerate, the creation of value.
All the better, though, if it's something you have passion for and you can go be doing that and not working for the corporation or work, maybe not working somewhere you don't want to be anymore, which is the case for a lot of people, right?
Yeah. If I could say, like, my prediction for these big companies is that all of these big companies are not going to survive. There will be a small handful of companies that provide critical infrastructure and critical tools and capabilities for the selfpreneur economy, for people who are going to be working on their own and serving, their local community, their local customers. And what that's going to do is that's going to actually open up more human connection. Imagine if you were doing business and you weren't always talking to an AI, but you could actually talk to the person that you're doing business with, and that was sustainable and scalable, and as an entrepreneur, you're actually able to make money doing that. It's a more enjoyable type of work. So I do see that that is my prediction for where the world is going to go, and I think it's smart to start preparing yourself for that.
And that is why you are so optimistic. And I really appreciate that we leave on what appears to be a sunny note and what it sometimes seems like a dark and gloomy subject. Yes, maybe the transformation will help us achieve some of the things we've been wanting to do anyway, and get us to a place where we're working for ourselves. If you're a good person, you'll have a good boss. Ayori Selassie, thank you for this conversation and for allowing us to understand the world a little bit better and maybe get some answers out of AI.
One side where it's more